here at the Greenwich Concours d'Elegance. It is a wonderful car show. The thing that's amazing about this show, it's the biggest classic car show on the East Coast, and the thing that's amazing is people drive the cars here, and you get up close and personal, you get time with the owners, and you can talk to them, and that's what we're doing for you guys. This is your car? This is this gentleman's car. All right. I walked past the tall guy because I'm a short guy. I didn't even see you standing there.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Tell me about this.
This is a 33 Ford Roadster. It has a very significant history. It was originally purchased in Detroit by Harry Warner. He used it on his honeymoon. That's why we call it the Honeymoon Roadster. Harry took the car to California, where he worked for Lockheed, and he and a friend of his, Wayne Horning, were caught up in the hot rod movement of the late 40s, and they developed a cylinder head, a special cylinder head for Chevy 6 cylinders called a Wayne 12 port. And they marketed those, and they actually made the 6-cylinder Chevy competitive in drag racing with the flathead Ford. And what it did, the 12-port solved the breathing problem of Chevy 6s, where Chevy 6s have the intake manifold and the exhaust manifold on one side. The Wayne 12 port put an individual port for each cylinder. And this car was the test bed for the Wayne 6-cylinder. And Harry ran 6-cylinder engines in this car at Pomona. And really, this car was, I want to show you this picture here. So this is what a Wayne 12-port engine looks like. This is Harry Warner. And here he is working on the car here. And he built a Wayne 12-port that raced at Indianapolis. Harry kept the car his whole life. He passed away in '94. His son sold the car in 2006, and it was restored, but it was restored with an Arden flathead. Now, Arden was a collaboration between Zora Duntov and his brother Yura, and they were working to improve the breathing problems of a flathead Ford. See, both engines had a breathing problem. They couldn't get enough gas in and enough exhaust out. So what the Arden head did is it took the valves from in the block and put them in the cylinder head, an overhead valve, and it's a hemispherical combustion chamber. So it almost doubled the horsepower, and that's what this car has.
So, in a sense, this car is a hot rod because it has a different engine, and you've maybe done some other upgrades as well. But it also is a beautiful example of the way the car was, except the engine has changed significantly. But it's kind of the best of both worlds. Is that correct?
That's right. It's definitely a hot rod, but it is very true to the way a hot rod would be built in the 1950s.
You know what's amazing too is that today a car company would never come out with a car not breathing right, or not. You know, they'd figure out the engine problems. Back then they said, it doesn't really work as exactly how we want it, but we'll put it out there anyway.
Well, the aftermarket was huge because hot rodders wanted to improve the performance of their cars. Drag racing was going on in every city in town, and a huge aftermarket developed for speed equipment.
Well, there are two stories here. Story number one is that World War II released a flood of trained mechanics back into civilian life. And a lot of those guys took up hot rodding and found the flaws in a lot of the engines that were designed. The reason why the flathead had breathing problems is because they were looking towards simplicity. Okay, GM with the Chevy 6, they were looking towards ease of maintenance and simplicity. All those things were secondary. Performance was secondary, and these guys simply addressed the problems they chose to overlook. The Arden head, there's more to the story. Zora Arkus Duntov and his brother, as you mentioned, designed the head, but what did Zora Arkus Duntov end up doing afterward? He became the chief engineer for the Corvette. And the Corvette, when it was introduced in 1953, had a Chevy 6 with 3 carburetors on it. Okay, so they tried to address the breathing problems then. But as soon as the V8 came out in 55, Duntov said, get that thing in there. And by 56, they stuck dual quads on it, and the rest was history.
A small block Chevy in 55 absolutely obsoleted. 12-port heads, the Arden heads. Mm-hmm. That was ancient history. Every hot rodder that worth his salt would put in a small block Chevy if they didn't already have a Cadillac or an Olds overhead valve engine in it.
Right, and those came out immediately after war. Cadillac both came out in 49, or Cadillac was a little bit earlier. No, 49 was right here.
Right, 49.
Both came out, and those were the hot motors, but they were heavy. The Chevy small block was much lighter and simpler too, because I'll give you an example. The rocker arms were on shafts in those cars. Chevy was the first to have the rocker arm on a ball-shaped bolt, so it didn't need the shaft. That saved some weight. It was an amazing piece of engineering for its time.
I agree with your comment.
And descendants thereof still power GM cars today.
They were absolutely looking to save money. Henry Ford wanted to produce an economical V8, and whatever he could do to put the engine together as cheaply as possible, that's what he did. But for hot rodders, it was the perfect palette to build on.
Right, exactly. And first of all, they're plentiful. Second of all, there were some very easy modifications they could make. I mean, again, we're going back to the song Little Deuce Coupe. Ported, relieved, stroked, bored. And that's what you had to do to make those things go.
These heads are extremely rare. There's been no final estimate, but there's probably less than 500 heads ever made, pairs of heads. And the 12-port, 400 is the estimate for those. Very rare engines. And so with this car, it was featured in the 1953 issue of Hop Up magazine, racing at Pomona with the 12-port in it.
That's amazing. And also, remember, Drew, too, that Chevy was a six-cylinder car. In 1929, they introduced a six-cylinder engine, and it was nothing but sixes until the V8 came out in 55.
Let's talk about the interior a little bit, by the way. Show off the interior. Also, was there a rumble seat? And I want to say hello to the chat. How you guys doing? Come on, chat it up, guys. We'll answer your questions. We'll give Matt a break. He doesn't have to talk the whole time.
To see the interior?
Of course we would. We got to get one of the camera guys over here. Nice suicide doors. Now, I was told that these would be called coach doors if this was a British make.
That's news to me.
I didn't know that either. They are suicide doors.
Suicide doors is what I've always heard them called. But seeing that I'm 6'5", it's a very practical setup to get in and out of. Now, this interior is fairly original. This is very much the way a 33 Ford interior would look. The first thing that a hot rodder would notice is the shape of the transmission lever. It's curved in a swan shape, which indicates it's a 39 box. 39 was a synchronized transmission, and hot rodders preferred the 39 over the 33 and other early Ford transmissions.
A synchronized transmission would be very nice back then, especially. By the way, I want to say hi to Dave Doran, who's watching. Thanks so much. Keep the comments coming. We'll answer your questions. Now, these cars were pretty uncomfortable. Leaf springs, very springy. They felt like driving a mattress. What about now? Have you done any upgrades to the suspension?
This has a drop front axle and radial tires. And a lot of people would say, why would you put radial tires on it? This car drives fantastic. And it uses the original rear suspension. It's a transverse spring in the front and the back. Actually handles very well. And at highway speeds, it's no problem at all. It's comfortable to drive and pretty peppy too.
These were probably, I'd love to go to the back now, and this was a rumble seat or it was not?
Yeah, always a rumble seat car.
The wheels are, I'd love to see it. The wheels are 15 inches, is that about right?
Yes.
Look at that.
You got to forgive me. We've been using it to store our water and paper towels.
Now, I mean, there doesn't look to be that much room back there. Could I fit back there?
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of room because, let me show you. Take a look in there.
Oh yeah, there's a good footwell there.
That's the battery box that we have back there. This was a really comfortable ride, and if you notice, the convertible top has a seam in it that folds down, so the rumble seat passengers can talk to the driver.
Wow, very, very cool. I like this a lot. Thanks so much for sharing.
Hey, thanks a lot for your show. I really enjoy it.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a fan.
Thank you very much.